we're back. This is John.
And it's Eric.
And this is What If Geeks. And tonight we're going to talk about Mandalorian Episode 5. But first, because we were recording longer than usual earlier, we're getting interrupted really early, and we have our special guest. Say hi.
Hi.
It's Noah. Noah's coming in to say goodnight. So, Noah, we had a big weekend, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Who did you see? First, we went to the Fun Spot Saturday, right? And who did we see?
The Harlem Globetrotters.
No, who did we see at the Fun Spot? Lean in. Santa, yep. And we'll post one of your pictures with Santa on the website because they did really good. Those came out really good. So yeah, we went down to the Fun Spot in Orlando by International Drive and had a really, really good Santa Claus there and a really good photographer. Mm-hmm. Santa was all dressed up in his. Santa offered the kids they can take a picture with him because it's at his workshop. So he said, you can take a picture with me in my red suit or in my work clothes where he's got like his suspenders on and stuff. But, yeah, he did a really good photo shoot with you, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Sunday we went to go see who?
The Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah. Was it fun?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. So, yeah, it was very funny. I used to watch them growing up on TV. And not the same guys.
Yeah, obviously.
Although that would be an interesting show, too. All right. Good night.
Good night, Noah.
Yeah, get back here.
Night.
All right. Love you. All right. So, yes. Tonight we are going over the Mandalorian Chapter 5.
Chapter 5.
And we are going to go heavy spoilers and Easter eggs. So, stand by.
Yeah, this episode is so steeped in Easter eggs and throwbacks and callbacks and whatever you want to call them that I think it's worth. We don't normally mention more than a few per episode, but there's so many in this one. You almost have to talk about it.
Yeah.
All of them.
Every one of them. We're doing every one.
So we're going to do this episode a little different, and we're going to talk a lot about spoilers while we're going through the story. So I guess, we should start there. So, okay. So, this episode of The Mandalorian, incredibly heavy on the callbacks and the Easter eggs. So we're going to talk a lot about that. I heard some people say that it's so bad that it feels like it's pure fan service, right?
Yeah.
And in large part, I get that, but this whole series has been sort of a dedication to George Lucas,
yep.
his films that he's done, and all the influences that inspired him to make this in the first place, or to make the Star Wars franchise in the first place.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it feels appropriate to have this and not call it pure fan service, at least not in a derogatory way. I mean, it is fan service, but I don't mean that derogatorily. So, it does have an unfortunate effect, though. A fair chunk of the screen time is given up to these callbacks and...
Sure, yeah.
And it makes the storyline sort of advance a little slower than it probably should.
Yeah, I guess. But you know what? I don't know. I enjoy the fan service. But go ahead, yeah.
But...
I see your point.
Yeah, well, I'm not. This is not a point against it. I'm just saying I get why people say this feels like pure fan service when they watch this episode.
We're understanding the complaints that we've been getting on our site.
But at the same time, I think it's appropriate for the way Favreau set this series up, for everything he's been doing up to this point. It's all been for that purpose. It's all been the... feels like a dedication to George Lucas. I mean, that's really it. The whole series feels like that. And it just gets more and more like that as it goes on. And I'm not mad about it.
No.
And you could do that the whole first season and pick up a new storyline and do something different later. But it feels appropriate, and I don't have a problem with it.
Right.
And then he also does something else which wastes screen time in the story advancement in this episode, which is that he decides to paint a picture of Tatooine, both after the murder. Is that the right way to say that? The murder of Jabba the Hutt?
Yeah.
the deserved killing of Jabba the
In
Hutt.
case we had the spoiler alert this thing. But go ahead, yeah. We'll get into this whole thing.
And then the fall of the Empire. So he's painting sort of a new picture of Tatooine. So these places are all familiar. You're going to recognize a whole bunch of shit, but it isn't the way you remember it.
Right.
It's not the wretched hive of scum and villainy
now,
that
well, the thing is,
Obi-Wan called it.
If you want to jump back to the very beginning of the episode, and we can just start kind of going through we'll do a play-by-play, basically.
Yeah, play-by-play.
So you got, he's, obviously the callback, or the refresher of the last episode is when they fight off the ATSD and the Horde, and then he leaves Cara Dune behind and they fly off, right?
Yep.
Because he realizes that the child is not safe.
Yeah, the Bounty Hunter Guild's got his ass.
Yeah, so
he's not going to be able to hide.
one bounty hunter is after the child, so now he realizes everybody's really after the child, not him. So he's going to go on the run with the child. Opens up with them flying through space and being pursued by another craft. Dude is talking to him, telling him, "Give me the kid."
Yep.
Right? And he's shooting at him. He's hitting the ship. You know, he's messing up Mando's ship pretty bad. And he says, "I can bring you in cold, or I can bring you in warm."
Yeah.
Right? Which pisses off Mando.
Yeah.
Basically, he hits the brakes on his ship.
Yeah.
Is what he does.
Yep.
And the dude flies over him, and then he's like, "That's my line," and shoots him.
Yeah.
And I saw, was it on our page or was it on another page? Maybe it was on the Star Wars page that you had me join. Someone complained about, how did he hear him say that? And I'm like,
yeah.
They're talking on a fucking radio.
Yeah.
Like oh, you think the Mandalorian would have his own frequency, but they clearly established he's talking to him.
Yeah.
Like, they hail each other, they talk. That's how radios work. Like, yeah, maybe they're not on the same frequency, but or eventually they can kind of ping each other and be like, switch over to this one, and talk privately or whatever. That's how they talk. It's how they communicate with each other.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it. It's fine.
Yeah, it was a dumb issue I heard.
If your suspension of disbelief does not allow you to deal with the fact that two opposing bounty hunters are talking on a radio, give me a break. I mean, they're both in the Bounty Hunter Guild, for Christ's sake. Like, right. You don't think one knows how to get a hold of the other?
Exactly. Yeah. That was my point. It just made me laugh when that was to our argument, or not our argument, but to our discussion last episode when we were talking about Rise of Skywalker and the toxic fandom and this. That is the type of petty shit that you see in this fandom, where you really nitpick the hell out of everything. Can you not just enjoy it? And again, this is coming from a guy who really didn't care for Last Jedi. Woe be me for all you that are going to come at me, but whatever. I didn't, but I mean, the fact that I heard one podcast I listened to said it perfectly. If you're rooting for your favorite team, you root for them, wins or losses. So, overall, you're still a Star Wars fan. You still love Star Wars. And that's my viewpoint. I didn't like Last Jedi. There was some of the prequel shit that I didn't like. But, there was some of the stuff that when George Lucas started fucking with them all. Right? Yeah. Some of that shit I thought was like, really? Why did you do that?
The edits, the original trilogy.
Yeah, the edits, the Han shot
who shot first, yeah. We'll get to that in this episode, actually.
Yeah, the extended singing scene in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jabba, that extended singing scene, while humorous, I was like, you didn't need that. It was just dumb. But be that as it may, I'm just saying, like, you root for the whole thing,
Yeah.
You cheer on, you appreciate the fact that it's being made. And you got these guys nitpicking over whether or not they can talk to each other on a fucking radio. So he pisses Mando off, and Mando hits the brakes, flies over, and shoots him out of the sky, right?
Yep.
Out of space. Blows him up. They fly a little bit. You see a light tan planet coming into view.
Yeah.
And as they come in, the first thing you hear is Mos Eisley Tower.
Yeah,
contact.
so there's a few Easter eggs in that. Actually, we might have even skipped some if we're going to go over them, because first of all, the opening with the space chase, which we've talked about enough already, but I mean that is how A New Hope opens. The Tantive 4 cruiser is being chased by a Star Destroyer, and that theme has been echoed in multiple movies. the space chase scene, sort of the disadvantaged ship being chased by something better, right?
Yeah.
And we're not going to get into General Holdo being chased in that whole debacle. But anyway, but yeah, so I mean, that's kind of like a staple, right? So it's really cool to see them do this. And then they have an extra special thing in this because they show the targeting computers on both the bounty hunter ship and Mando's
Yes, and
ship.
I saw your conversation with somebody.
And so this is a total throwback.
Go to our Facebook page and check all this shit out.
This is a total throwback to late 70s, early 80s, the computer technology that was available, the screens that are in the X-Wings and Vader's TIE Fighter, and it all looks like shit because, it was...
That's what was available.
Yeah. They had 640 by 480 pixel VGA, 16 colors was all they could do.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's what they live with. So I love that he did a throwback. Now, this isn't 640 by 480. There's more pixels here, obviously, but he still took that concept and used that color scheme.
Look, yeah.
It's really cool. Mm-hmm. I think it's really cool. It's a really cool nod that doesn't take anything away from. You expect to see a targeting computer in that. It doesn't waste any time. It's fine, Mm-hmm. And then even the hit the brakes part of that chase, where he stops, and we saw that before. We saw that in Return of the Jedi, Battle of Endor, when they're being chased by the speeder bikes or whatever with scout troopers on them. And he hits the brakes, and then he goes right by the two of them, and then he can shoot them down, right? So that was also borrowed. And then we get to Planet Tatooine, and so there's actually there's a few callbacks within this Planet Tatooine thing. So one, the ship being...
Sorry, I like your callback to the brakes thing with Iron Man too.
Oh yeah,
well, Iron Man, not Iron Man 2, but Iron Man as well.
Well, so we've had a couple things within Mandalorian where it felt like, oh, well, it's Favreau. That could have been a nod to Iron Man, but then if you really think about it, it probably wasn't.
Yeah, because it's also a nod to Star Wars.
Yeah, the Iron Man itself may have been a callback to to Star Wars or something, who knows? But Iron Man does that exact same thing in the original Iron Man movie when he's being chased by the Raptors and he smashes on the brakes, puts his flaps out or whatever, and he flies right between the two middle. That is exactly how it plays out in Return of the Jedi, and Luke goes right between the middle of two scout troopers on the bikes.
Yep.
So, I mean, he could have borrowed that. He probably did borrow that. It's not like he's not a fan too. But anyway, so we saw this plot element in the Phantom Menace. Oh, your ship gets damaged, and you got to go land on planet Tatooine for repairs. So that happened, of course, in Episode 1. And Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan bring, what's her name? That's going to...
Padme?
Thanks. Yeah, they break Padme out of Naboo or whatever, and they get shot by the blockade runner, and then the ship's damaged, and they got to go in for repairs. So I think that was a nod over to that too. But so the Mos Eisley Tower thing, that's where you were. I'm sorry I did that 5-minute tangent. But so Mos Eisley Tower, he says, head over to Bay 35. So
as soon as he said, this is Mos Eisley Tower, head over to Bay 35, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, people were wondering when they did the whole scene with Quill, oh, maybe that's Tatooine. They got the fucking Jawa sand crawlers there. But the Star Wars databank says that's a completely different planet. It's Arvala 7. So to see Tatooine now is like, yes, finally. Why didn't you just do this in the first place?
And this is outside of like the prequels when they set up Tatooine being there, whatever. But it's really other than Dagobah in Empire and Return of the Jedi, right? This is, I think, is this the only time you see them actually return to another planet after some time? You know what I mean? Like return to the same planet, like because they go to Tatooine. Like you like start on Tatooine in New Hope. Yeah.
Tatooine is actually in 6 of the movies because it was in A New Hope because that was Luke's planet. Right. And then when they went backwards... I guess,
Return
that
of
was
the
Jedi,
Anakin's
home planet.
Fucking...
So that played out quite a bit, actually. Tatooine's it's probably been used more than any other planet.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So it was a matter of time before they got to Tatooine. All right. Never mind, blame our last.
But I'm glad they... Well, that's okay.
Not you. I'm talking about everybody else.
Oh, okay. So of course he's going to land at Mos Eisley, but so there are a whole bunch of throwbacks in that one little line that this is Mos Eisley Tower, head for Bay 35. So of course it's Mos Eisley. That's the obvious callback.
That's the spaceport. Yeah,
everybody was expecting that to happen as soon as we knew it was Tatooine. Or I guess that was the moment we knew it was Tatooine, but it was obvious, right? And then everybody will remember Docking Bay 94. That's been used everywhere because that's where the Millennium Falcon was. But Docking Bay 35 has actually been used before too, just not in canon. So there was a Star Wars role-playing game that was released back in, I think it must have been the late 80s.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was late 80s. And so there was a magazine established by, I forget the guy's name, Peter, it's going to bug me. Well, it doesn't matter. So, well, it does matter, but I just can't remember.
Good. Keep going.
I'm gonna find it.
Peter
Schweighöfer.
Yeah.
Peter Schweighöfer. Yeah. So there was a guy that established a magazine that was specifically for that role playing series, which was called Star Wars Adventure Journal. And one of the stories that he wrote, which was titled "Limping Lady," was about a YT 1300 freighter that was owned by a crime boss or whatever. And the point of the adventure is getting anyway. None of that matters. The point is, it was parked in Docking Bay 35, and you could say, "Oh, well, that's just completely coincidental." But this guy founded a magazine that was dedicated to Star Wars role-playing game. I don't think that was accidental that they picked 35 as the docking bay.
Yeah.
And they could have picked.
Went deep. In the lore.
They could have picked 94, but he's done other things with this, like the throwback to Joe Johnston with the Rocketeer and the Boba Fett design.
Yeah,
he's done other things where he's gone deep into the people that help make things, and gave him a call back.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was accidental. But the last one, which you may not have noticed because it's only a 2-second line, but the guy who's speaking on the radio is actually Steve Bloom. And so he voices Zeb, Garazeb Aurelios, whatever the hell his name is.
Oh, right, okay.
Zeb in the Clone Wars, the Rebels animated series.
Yeah.
So he voices that character. He's the ghost pilot.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So they had him back just to do a little 2-second cameo. But anyway, all right. So moving on, we're only 2 minutes into the show. We're never going to get past it.
2 minutes into Mando, 18 minutes into ours.
Yeah. So
thanks, Noah.
He finally goes to land on the planet, and there's another Easter egg right here in that while his ship is flying into Mos Eisley, you get this wide-angle shot where you see the mountains and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. That is literally the exact same shot you see in A New Hope when Luke and Obi-Wan and the two droids are up on the cliff looking at Mos Eisley before they get there.
A wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a perfect replica. It's great. I put them side by side on the website. I mean, they are so close. It's crazy. I'm sure they had to remake it for this, and they couldn't have used that original low grade film for it. But
yeah, like you can see, the picture is a little different, but barely.
Yeah, I think it's great. And that again, that's not something it takes away. You always expect to see the ship go land on the planet. A wide-angle shot is a great way to do where they're landing. There's no issue with that. So then he lands in Bay 35, and what do we see right after he lands? But pit droids pop up, and so this is maybe a little stretch because the pit droids have to this point been a droid that is used to fix pod racers. Right, that's the only place we've really seen them.
I think the only other thing that we might have missed, and it might just be a droid that looks close to it, is when George did the extended shit and he started fucking around with the originals. Mm-hmm. The extended shot of them going into Mos Eisley, as they're going through, they have a couple of different shots of like dewbacks walking around and whatever.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. There's a bantha in the background.
Yep.
But there's a shot of a droid, a large droid, picking something up. No, it was a flying one. Never mind. It wasn't. It was. But it was a dome, just like that guy. Like how they're small. It looked like one of those before they pop up. It was like flying over to him, and then he hits it. But it was flying. It was flying. Never mind.
Okay, so the pit droids are there to repair a ship, apparently, but Mando's not going to let him do it because he doesn't want no fucking droids. So I guess we talked last episode about it seems like he might be easing up on droids because he let that droid take him to the village in episode 4, but apparently that was just an oversight, and he's still mad at droids.
Yeah.
All right, maybe it was a matter of necessity. So he lands at Bay 35 and he meets up with Peli Motto, I think is how you pronounce her name. She only says her first name, but in the closed captions it says her full name. But she only says Peli in the actual dialogue.
Yeah.
But so she's there as the mechanic or whatever that's in the bay, and she's going to fix his ship. And when she's looking through it, she's scanning something. She says at one point, you've got a lot of carbon scoring up top, right? And that's the exact line after Luke and his uncle buy the droids in A New Hope, and he's like sort of scouring R2-D2 with a little metal pick or whatever. That's almost exactly the line he says. Like, it looks like a lot of carbon scoring here. You guys must have seen some action.
Yeah.
So it's like another general throwback that doesn't steal from anything because you'd expect some dialogue there. She's looking over his ship. It's
and you
no
would
big
expect
deal.
similar lines. You know what I mean? Like, because there's like people in certain regions either talk the same. Not that would be like a dialect kind of thing, but it was you would hear the same phrases from people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the carbon scoring thing is like, okay, you established that as a term people use. So that means you got fucked up by some blaster fire. So
right. Yeah.
We're just going to reuse that.
Yeah. Now, and this is where I'm going to get a little nitpicky here. Once she pops out, again, overall, I'm loving this show, and I liked this episode too. Her delivery took me aback a little bit, where it was more like a Sci-Fi channel TV show than a Disney Plus Star Wars. You know, it was almost like it felt like Farscape or some shit that you would see on the Sci-Fi channel 15 years ago. You know, it's kind of like
I hear you, but so I guess this is not an Easter egg per se, but the woman that plays that character is Amy Sedaris, who is another comedian. So Favreau apparently has a thing
for comedians
about sticking comedians into one episode roles or whatever, because he did it with Horatio Sanz, he did it with Brian Posehn, he did it with somebody else I'm forgetting before Amy Sedaris, but he has this thing of sticking comedians in for these cameo roles, and some of them aren't even Star Wars fans, because one that's going to come up, because they've announced it, spoiler alert I guess, but one that's going to come up, I mean, there's a famous comedian coming in to play a bounty hunter, and the guy has said in the past that he doesn't even like Star Wars. He
doesn't like any sci-fi, but he was like, it fell in my lap, and he had a lot of fun doing it. So, spoiler alert, it's Bill Burr.
It's Bill Burr, yeah.
One of the best comedians in the world, by the way. He's amazing. Go listen to his stuff and get offended. Go ahead. And I've actually seen a screenshot of him. So, barely. Oh, I mean, I recognized him, but a little bit. Like, he looked good, So we'll see how he plays it off.
Yeah, I guess so.
He looked mean.
So next thing we see happen is he pays her in credits for the repairs, and he doesn't have enough money. But the only reason this is I said at the beginning of this, Favreau is taking the opportunity to repaint the picture of Tatooine after the fall of the Empire and everything. So this is actually where it starts, because he offers her credits and she's like, that's not enough, but okay. She's taking them.
Right.
Right? And so if you remember from the previous films or prequel trilogy, whatever, there was no credits. I think the Huttese had a currency of their own. It was called like Wapipi or something crazy.
Something like that, yeah.
And so maybe that was what main people used. But for the most part, it's established in canon that bartering is what you do here, not money.
Well, except for like in New Hope, New Hope, holy shit. In A New Hope, when they meet in the cantina, Obi-Wan offers Han
20,000 credits to take them. So, like, it's an insane amount.
Like 10 now.
Yeah.
And like another 15, 20 when we get to where we're going.
Yeah, it was like an insane amount of credits. Yeah. And so you have to believe there's some sort of exchange medium or whatever, but for Han, who leaves the planet all the time, okay, fine. But for the
Right.
people that were on the planet, they didn't have any interest in credits.
Right.
What the fuck are we gonna do with these? You know, fuck you guys. The Hutts control this place. So anyway, it's just a way that he sort of paints the picture of how it's changed. It's changed since the Tatooine. You know, there's a difference now. You know, there's just a lot of differences now.
Yeah.
So she calls him a womp rat, of course, here, which is funny. It's funny only because in the previous episode, we've heard womp rat in A New Hope. That was some kind of giant rat creature that Luke Skywalker targeted in his T-16 Skyhopper
I used to
or whatever.
bullseye womp rats in Beggar's Canyon.
Yep. And so there's that, but then Mando uses it as a term of endearment last episode for Yodalorian.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, you little womp rat, you know. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, and then she uses it as an insult.
Yeah.
So only Mando could find that cute, I guess.
Right.
There's a throwback to a Sabacc game. You see her playing Sabacc with the droids, and she says something about, I'm going to up you a motivator, I'm going to raise you a motivator or something,
Right,
which was
yeah.
also a New Hope throwback because when R5-D4, when Luke first buys, or it's his uncle, I guess, but buys the R5-D4 from the Jawas, the thing like smokes and blows out, and then he's like, oh, the motivator's gone bad, you know, and then they have to get R2-D2. There was apparently a whole story written about that.
There was.
Yeah.
I've got it upstairs. It's in From a Certain Point of View.
Yeah,
that book.
from a certain point of view, yep.
There's one of them is where he and R2 talk on the Sandcrawler, and R2 explains his mission to him. So he purposely sacrifices himself to help the rebels.
Yep, and to make sure
There was
R2-D2 would get out of
also
there.
a callback, not a callback, sorry. There was also a story way back in, like, I guess Legends now, back in the old comics, where he had been around, and by the way, he's an R5-D4. In A New Hope, Luke calls him an R2 unit, remember? Mm-hmm. He's like, Uncle Owen, this R2 unit's got a bad motivator. He's not an R2 unit, he's R5. But, you know, maybe farm kid, you know, whatever. We'll give him that one. Apparently, in the which is, to show you how ridiculous they got way back then, this R5 unit in the comics was around Jedi so much that he essentially became Force sensitive himself, and was able to sense Force.
The fuck?
Yeah. I forget his name was like Dizzy, the Force sensitive robot or some shit like that. Really weird. Really, yeah.
Okay.
But yes, I read an article on it. I was just like, get the fuck out of here. but that's that. Welcome to the '80s. You know, when they were doing these comics, they had Han Solo running around with a giant space rabbit too. If you don't forget. So okay, go ahead.
So
sorry.
He's making his way to. He's about to walk into the Mos Eisley Cantina. But on the outside, you get to see a WED 15 Treadwell droid, which was like one that got like 1 second of screen time in A New Hope as one of the droids on the farm. Yep. It looks completely ridiculous. It has tracks and like a stock with 2 camera eyes on it. Yeah. It's like,
I wonder if that's Skywalker. You know what I mean? Like if it came from the Skywalker farm.
I wonder if many of the droids in this episode might have come from somewhere else. Because the next thing we see happen is that he goes into the cantina, and who is sitting at the counter but an EV-99 droid? Yeah. And so the only place we've seen EV-99 droids before this is in Jabba's palace. There was the one that was in charge of all the droids that was, you know... not doing the torturing, that was 8D8, but directing it and assigning the droids everywhere was an EV-99. Yeah. So these droids were... This was established in canon, by the way, so we just clarify. But they were apparently... Most of these were recalled because they had some sort of defect that made them prone to torturing or damaging other droids. Right? So if you know...
explains why Jabba loved them.
Yeah, and if you know that from canon... And then you say, well, could this be the same droid? Well, it very well might be. If only a handful of them survived, and this one happens to be on Tatooine and happens to be not too far from Jabba's palace, I mean, maybe it is the same droid. She's got the same voice. She's got the same old lady voice. They might all have that. We don't know how the...
Hey, you know, Jabba's palace can't be that far.
No, it's not. It's not far.
Yeah, so... Yeah, maybe once she realized, dude, I'm stuck in this palace. My boss ain't coming back home. Something that finally word got back to her. She's like, I gotta go find something to do with myself.
So here's another thing, though, that Favreau did just to show how Tatooine has changed, is that droids are manning this cantina. They're the servers, they're the bartenders, and from A New Hope, of course, no droids allowed.
Yep.
The droids can wait outside.
Yep.
We don't serve their kind
here.
here.
Yeah, now they're running the place.
So again, it's just a show, and I suppose I skipped over it, but when he walks through the streets before he even gets to Cantina, there's like nobody. It's like a ghost town. There's nothing bad happening. There's no scummy people hanging out against the wall. It looks all cleaned up.
You did see a shit ton of stormtrooper helmets on the pikes.
Yeah.
Remember, we missed that.
Yeah.
We skipped over that.
That was before or after this? I think that was after this. I don't know. It doesn't really matter.
I thought it was like immediately.
It might be. And then so...
on the cantina, with the cantina, I didn't notice, I'll have to go back and watch again, but did you notice any... I wanted to look, but I forgot to look, really. Once I saw the cantina, I knew that where they were. I wanted to see if there was any, like, callbacks to, like, you know that old dude that hangs out in the bar forever and ever? Has there been, like, some old dude hanging out there for, like, the last 15 years or whatever?
You know, I didn't look in the background shots. They show a handful of bar attendees close up. There's, like, a frog-looking dude, an ant-looking dude. It's not the same ones from the original. It's got... No. Thematically, it's the same.
I was just wondering if maybe there was one that
they're probably,
in the background
I wouldn't
somewhere.
be surprised if there was.
There's got to be.
And you
if
know
you
what?
guys know, let us know.
And I didn't even know this until I was reading something about the set build for this or something, but... In the New Hope, in the bar scene in the background, you can see the parts sitting back in the background that were used to make IG-88's head.
Huh.
And so I was looking for them in this to see if there was IG-11 or IG-88 head parts back there, but I did not see any. So I guess they took that little element out. It would have been funny, though. So while he's in the bar, he gets called over by Toro Calican, who is another... I wouldn't even call him a bounty hunter. He's a want-to-be bounty hunter.
Right.
He hasn't made it into the guild yet, right? This is his... Or he has, because he has a puck, but he's not really...
Is he sitting in the same damn spot as Han?
He is sitting in the same exact spot as Han and Greedo. And on top of that, he's sitting there leaning back with his feet on the table. The exact same way that Han sits before he shoots Greedo. And we're not going to talk about who shot first, but they do a shot with Calican with Toro, whatever the hell his name is, on the left side of the screen, so you can see the right side of the booth behind him, and there's no scorch mark or anything on the wall. Now, I don't know if this is Favreau's way to say,
Han shot first.
Han shot first, Greedo never shot.
Han shot only, yeah.
I went back and watched the re-release of the...
McCulkey?
Yeah. I went back and watched the re-release, though, and after Greedo shoots the wall, there's no scorch mark after he shoots it. So they just did the CGI blazer blast, and...
Yeah, nothing, yeah.
That's it.
This is bullshit.
It didn't leave anything on the wall.
Good job,
so
George.
It's probably not a good indicator, but it's funny anyway. It's funny that they're in that same booth and he's sitting the same way.
Yeah.
Of course, they're not having a shootout, but... So they got to go out. Toro tells him he's got a bounty for Fennec Shand, which may in itself be a callback. I don't know. There have been several Shans, Shan, in the Clone Wars. And
I saw your discussion on that one too.
Yeah, but this is Shand, Shand. So I think maybe like Paz Vizsla was missing a letter in his last name. Like this is just sort of a... Yeah, we're giving you a nod to those previous characters, but this isn't a relation or anything.
Yeah, but it's like at that point, or at this point anyway, when you're on Tatooine and this and that, whatever, where, and I think we'll discuss this further, where I think this is going to marry up with the movies a little bit more than we're seeing right now. I would like to see those nods actually, like, just go ahead and do it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, do it for once.
Yeah, use the actual name, or you know, it could be a brother or a sister, whatever. But use the actual name. Don't fiddle fuck around with it. You know, actually do it.
I would like them to do it at some point, but I don't think I would have liked to see 10 characters we've already seen come back for this show, which is set between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens.
Yeah,
and,
no, I would not like. What I love that he's doing is also what he's not doing. He's not doing the George Lucas prequels where he's shoehorning every known character in there.
Yeah.
He's giving you a few nods here and there. He's giving you your Easter eggs like the ice cream maker and the pole from A New Hope and shit like that. You know, little things. You got a Kowakian lizard monkey getting roasted, kind of, little nods here and there, like, oh shit, okay. But other than that, there's no real
No, and he did say, yeah, that's true. He did say pre-release.
Still only not and a half minutes into this episode.
He did say pre-release that this was going to be all new characters, and they pretty much held up to that. Even IG-11 is damn near a replica of IG-88, but it is a new character. Right. So far they've pretty well held up to that promise, and I mean we'll see where they go with it, but. I mean, I don't disagree with you. They probably should do...
We'll get to my prediction at the end of this.
They should do one or two. And I don't know, Boba Fett's probably not the right throwback to do. I mean, some people...
We'll get to it at the end.
Yeah, okay.
Let's keep going.
Where the hell were we? Oh, yeah, so we were at the...
Gonk Power Droid goes walking by.
All right.
They got to go after her beyond the Dune Sea.
Yeah, Dune Sea, yeah. So he mentions they got to go after her on the Dune Sea. Dune Sea is, of course... where Ben Kenobi lived. He lived on the outskirts of the Dune Sea. That's mentioned in New Hope. So yet another little callback that works fine with fitting in the dialogue. Mm-hmm. We do see a Gonk Power Droid when he's walking out of there. He tells Toro to get speeder bikes for him.
But I like your other reference in here.
Which
Dune
one?
Sea is also the home to the Sarlacc pit.
Oh yeah, it
Return
is.
Of the Jedi,
that's right. Yeah.
Which may be relevant later.
Yes, it may indeed be relevant later. We'll see.
Ooh,
so
cryptic.
He tells Toro to go get speeder bikes. That's of course a throwback to Return of the Jedi. We've already talked about these because the brake scene was something we saw in Return of the Jedi on the speeder bikes. So he brings.
And when Noah saw these things moving, he was like, "There's no wheels." I was like, "Yeah, there's no wheels."
So Toro brings the speeder bikes out, and they're heading out into the Dune Sea. Speeder bikes, of course, we saw in Return of the Jedi. And then I think this is an interesting one where these aren't technically speeder bikes; they're the swoop bikes, the faster version, but they don't call them that.
Well, yeah, okay, so maybe it's just like another term for them. Trying to think of what you would. Trying to think of a good analogy here.
It's all right. I'm fine with calling them speeder bikes. It doesn't bother me, but I know other people mention swoop bikes. Okay,
maybe Swoop is a brand.
Well, Swoop is like
grab the truck or go.
Swoop is like a more dangerous version. They called it like an engine. You're just sitting on an engine or something like that.
Right,
it's much faster, and it doesn't really matter that much. But so those were originally seen in Return of the Jedi, but when they did the special edition re-release, they added speeder bikes in one of the scenes to A New Hope. So now that's technically the first appearance.
Yeah. Yeah,
even though that came out just 20.
Yeah,
it's really obnoxious that. I mean, it's not obnoxious that they do the little add-ins. I actually kind of like some of that, like extra few seconds here and there where you get something. But
and then in another 2 weeks we're gonna get the Mario Kart Double Dash versions of them.
Oh yeah.
The 2-man speeder bike thing.
Toro, when they're about to get on the bike, he says something like, "This ain't Corellia," because he's looking at the bikes all funny or whatever. He's like, "This ain't Corellia, man." The only reason that's funny is because Corellian Engineering Corporation was based on Corellia, and they made the Millennium Falcon. Yeah, that's the manufacturer that made
Well, it's also in Legends, Han.
Oh yeah, he's from that planet.
He's from Corellia, and he used to race swoops.
No, in fact, there were several. I can't remember who all was it. Wedge Antilles was from Corellia. There were several characters that are from Corellia. I don't remember who that. Oh yeah, it is Wedge Antilles, Han Solo. Yeah. So they start rolling through the desert, and Mando sees something, tells him to stop, and Toro whips out his binoculars.
Yep.
Starts looking down there, and he sees the Bantha and Tusken Raiders.
Yep.
Right, and the weird part about this, and I don't know if this is a cultural change or just a way to sort of fix things from previous movies, but he's looking down those binoculars. He says something smart ass, and Mando's like, "Why don't you tell him yourself?" And then he turns around,
and they're
and
right
there's
behind
two
him.
Tusken Raiders standing behind him.
So maybe they move quietly, kind of.
Yeah, but the thing that's bizarre about this is Tusken Raiders. They've moved quietly before. This happens in A New Hope.
Yeah,
but
you stand around on top of Luke.
They immediately attack.
Yeah,
like they don't. There's no conversation. There's like, fuck it, I'm gonna kill you. Even when people are just flying through. This is Phantom Menace, I guess. When they're flying through on the pod racers, Tuskens are shooting at them. Like,
right. Yeah,
they don't. There's no conversations. There's no. But so somehow Mando knows some sort of sign language that they apparently respond to, and he's able to negotiate passage. So
I thought he was telling them to steal third.
Yeah, it kind of feels like that. So it's possible, I guess, that as they were approaching, before Toro ever saw him, that Mando was already giving them signs like, "Hey y'all, I know your language. I'm gonna help you out here," and then that's why they didn't attack him, but. I mean, the scene itself is a throwback. You're on binoculars, you're looking down at some Tusken Raiders, and then you turn around, and then there's one right there, right? And that's the same concept. It's definitely a callback. But these ones are different. So you wouldn't think that the Empire and the Hutts leaving Tatooine would change the way that the Tusken Raiders operate. So this is just sort of I don't want to call it a retcon because it's not that, but like, okay, the Tuskens went, and they just made screaming noises, but they actually have some sort of primitive language, and they can talk to each other. And
it's an exploration of their personalities a little bit more.
Yeah.
Gives you a deeper level to them. What if they recognize Mando?
Maybe, I guess. Possible.
You know? I mean, there's a reason he knows how to talk to him.
Yeah. Well, they certainly wouldn't have hurt him with that armor on anyway. But
no.
All right, so they get their passage through the desert, through the Tuskens' territory, and they come upon a dewback that has a bounty hunter attached, dead bounty hunter attached to him, right? And so I think it seems like maybe Mando realizes that there might be something going on here.
Yeah.
But then he's like, looking, and he's like, let me go check it out. And he runs over the dune and goes out there, which... Of course, he gets sniped.
Yeah.
So, did he know that there was something going on, or was it just, I don't know what it was. But
maybe he had a hunch and he ignored it.
Yeah. So, luckily as Beskar, she's really far away. She's in a ridge line, like, I don't even know. Must be a mile away or something. And so he runs back to the dune and hides. And he says a really funny line here because of this throwback to Phantom Menace, but like a memeable line from Phantom Menace. He says, "She's got the high ground."
Yeah.
So we got to wait till nightfall and try to rush her, right? I thought that was hilarious because that high ground thing is probably prior to the Mandalorian one of the most memeable things out of Star Wars ever.
Oh my god, yeah.
But yeah, so Mandalorian's taking the cake with "This Is the Way" and what was the other one?
I Have Spoken.
I Have Spoken. Thing.
She's got the high ground.
So they're taking away all the memeable references from the earlier stuff, but but it's good anyway. So anyway, she's got the high ground. So they come up with a plan. They're going to do they're going to rush her at night and use flashbangs to blind her or something, so she can't snipe them.
Yeah.
And for the most part, that works. Except right at the end, when they're really close, she actually hits Mando's speeder bike and knocks him off and destroys it. Yeah. And so luckily, Toro makes it. And
they get the drop on her. Yeah.
Able to stop. Well, not really stop her because she ultimately whoops his ass, but it gives him just enough time for Mando to get up and make his way around and grab her. So that's that. They capture her, and then they've of course got to figure out a way to transport her back. So they've only got one speeder bike now. A speeder bike can only hold 2 people. So what are we gonna do? And then
he tells Toro,
go
back
and
get that dewback that we saw.
And Toro's like, "No, fuck you,
man.
I'm not leaving you here with this bounty." Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he goes to walk to find the dewback, and it apparently takes him all night. And in the morning, when the sun's coming up, Fennec Shand is talking to Toro and somehow convinces him that.
Well, she tells him, she's like, "Hey, you're all about bounty, and you want to join the guild. You want to impress the guild. You've got your your bartering chip basically with you. Like, he's a Mandalorian. And then she says a Mandalorian got into a firefight with the entire guild, and they're all after him. He's got to be him. That's got to be this guy.
Yeah.
You bring him in, they'll let you write your own ticket, basically.
And so this almost borders on a plot hole, though, because there's no chance in hell he was going back to get the bounty for her. Mando was going back to get the bounty for her because he's basically expelled from the guild at this point.
Yeah, but I think he's still trying to help.
Yeah, but I mean, like, for Toro to buy that line of like, oh yeah, he's a traitor, you just take him back instead of me. Well, if he's a traitor, he's not taking her back.
Right. Yeah, I get it.
But anyway, it doesn't really matter that much.
But because she convinces him that Mando's worth more than she is.
Yeah. And then...
that backfires a little bit.
Yeah, and something of an unexpected twist. He may not have killed her, but he shoots her.
Yeah, it definitely
looks like he appears to be dead. Laying on the ground
shoots her in the
there.
stomach as she flops over.
Yeah.
Like a carp.
So then he runs off back to Mos Eisley to wait for Mando. And it takes Mando the better part of a day, because it's nighttime when he finally gets back with the dewback.
Yep. And he sees her.
Yeah. He sees that she's dead, and then he treks back to where he was.
Yeah.
He knows something's wrong at this point, though, obviously. Especially when he gets back to Mos Eisley at Bay 35 and he sees the speeder bike sitting outside.
Yeah, he knows.
Of like, you fucking idiot, why did you leave the speeder bike outside? But I guess he's supposed to be a fucking idiot, right? That's the whole point.
Yeah, the whole point is he needs
totally
Mando
naive,
to do anything,
and So he goes inside, he knows something's up. He's there, of course. He's got...
Mind you, this entire time, too, she's... Peli has been taking care of Yoda and Lorian. She's been hanging out with them and, like, mothering them and nurturing, hanging out and doing whatever. But, so she's really taking a shine to him, kind of, you know. You can leave him with me. I'll take care of him for an extra fee or whatever, you know. Like that whole bit happened during the episode.
So, Toro takes her hostage and the baby. Tries to use that against the Mandalorian. What a wasted effort, because he kills him with no effort.
Yeah, well, the cool part is, I mean, again, just speaking back to, with limited resources, Mando finds a way out of a lot of shit. And so basically he's like, all right, Toro's got her in front of him, and he's got the baby in his arms with the blaster pointed at him. And he's like, all right, go down there and cuff him. And when she goes down there, she reaches behind his head because he's got his hand. He drops his blaster. He's got his hands up on his on his helmet. And when she goes to cuff him, she sees he's got the flashbang in his hand, and she's like, she even says, she's like, what's this? She goes, you're very
smarter than you look. I don't remember what she says. Something like that.
Shit like that, which is kind of funny for a guy with a helmet. But whatever, something to that effect. Like you're smarter than you look, and with a smirk on her face, like all right. So he he hits the flashbang, blinds the kid, and shoots him,
kills him, and he's definitely dead.
Don't worry, once again, Yoda-Lorian's perfectly fine.
Yeah,
I thought this kid landed on him.
Well, he does another vanishing act, which is becoming a bit of a thing now, where he is in one place and 2 seconds later he's in another.
Yeah.
So the guy falls to the ground. They're over there at Toro. I mean, seriously, it can't be more than 2 seconds, and the Yoda-Lorian's not there. And then he comes out of a crate 20 feet away, like from behind a barrel or something. Yeah.
Maybe he did the Leia.
He's got some force. He's got some force teleportation.
He's doing the Leia force pull or some shit.
He's got some new abilities.
Teleportation. That's cool. We'll go with that one.
So Peli tells the pit droids to drag Toro's body to Beggar's Canyon, which is of course another Easter egg. This is first mentioned in A New Hope when Luke is talking to Biggs Darklighter about how going into the trench on the Death Star is like riding their T-16s through Beggar's Canyon or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Beggar's Canyon also showed up in Phantom Menace, where it's a piece of that Boonta Eve pod racer event or whatever. So anyway, another cool little Easter egg that didn't take from it and belonged in the. It was fine in the. It's fine in the dialogue. And then so he leaves the planet. That's that. He gives Peli all the money that he stole off of Dead Toro, which is apparently a whole bunch of credits, because she's like, "Oh, yeah, that'll do fine.
Yeah,
That
she's
cover you.
shocked with how much he gives her. So now there's kind of like a fade to black there. Was it actual credits or was it the fade to black?
No, it's fade to black. So Mando's ship takes up and shoots off into the sky, and then there's a fade out, and then back into the desert at night.
To Shan's body.
Yes, you see Shan's body laying in the
I
sand.
want to call back to the title of this episode.
The Gunslinger.
The Gunslinger.
Yeah.
Okay. So now what do you hear?
You hear what sounds like spurs, like chink, chink, chink as he's walking.
And then you see feet come into the shot.
You do.
And a body crouches down. You see a hand. I think you see the hand come in.
I don't remember if you see the hand. You definitely kneels.
You see
definitely
a body
kneels
kneel.
down. Yeah.
But you don't see.
You don't see
much.
You don't see anything above the knee, really.
Yeah.
There's nothing above the knee. So we have no idea who it is, and it's a dark scene. I mean, the whole show is dark in general. Brightness-wise, it's pretty darkly done. But, I mean, this is really dark. This scene is really, like...
Yeah.
The lighting is very low. God, I can't say dark because it's giving the wrong impression. But
because it's at night in the desert, no ambient light really.
So
starlight.
Yeah. So any Star Wars fan of the original trilogy is going to remember in ESB on Empire Strikes Back on Cloud City when Boba Fett makes his intro into that area when Vader's talking to him and he walks in from the background. As he steps in, it's chink, chink. It sounds like he has spurs on.
Yeah. And he did. He does. The figure has spurs. Because Lucas stated he wanted him to be like a Clint Eastwood type of Wild West kind of gunslinger. Which, again, title of the episode. Because I've heard arguments that, this is going to be Bill Burr's character. And it could, because you haven't seen him yet. But holy shit, the spurs, you're on Tatooine. There is even a callback in a canon book that we've talked about before.
Yeah. That
someone found Mandalorian armor that was pretty beat up and looked like it had been dipped in acid or some shit. I'm telling you, I think that this is Fett, and I think you're going to set it up not now, but I think they're going to set it up like maybe the last episode. You're going to see a full shot of him, and that's going to be protagonist, antagonist, whatever, for season 2. But if they do it, I want to see them, because they shouldn't really have a beef with each other, per se. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I want to eventually maybe see them work together.
So, I'm going to say this isn't Fett for a whole bunch of reasons.
Okay.
One, visually, the cape on this character goes down to like above the ankles. Fett's cape was short. It was like, I don't even know if it went below his waist. It was a really short cape.
It was like a Lando cape.
Yeah. So you could change that, fine. The chinking I definitely got to give to you. That's a Fett. Like everything else we've seen from Favreau, this could just be a nod without being the character. He's done a bunch of this. So the next thing I'm going to say to you is that so we've already got the, 1 or 2 sentence descriptor for all the remaining episodes in the season. Mm-hmm. And we know from one of them that Mando is going to confront an old rival. Now, why the fuck would Fett, if he's been missing for 5 years, be an old rival to Mandalorian?
I think Bill Burr is going to be the old rival.
That's what I think, too. And I think Burr might even be the character in this. I don't know that.
Could be. What if he's both?
He's Boba Fett without the armor.
Is fucking
he
Boba
gave up
Fett.
his acidic armor. He couldn't get new ones, so he just
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Bill Burr is Boba Fett.
Out of his armor, though. This is his armor got eaten by acid, so now he's
yeah.
He's just a different kind of bounty hunter. But no, so
funny.
I kind of that makes me feel like it's probably Burr's character. What I've also seen on our social media is Cad Bane, which is a very, very, very Western-inspired alien bounty hunter that's appeared in Clone Wars. Definitely, he has a cowboy hat. I don't know if he has spurs, but it could
I remember
be
him.
Could be another one.
Wouldn't be much to throw
but I don't
spurs
think
on that dude.
Nobody's mentioned this yet. But it just could be another secret Favreau kept. It's possible. And then it could be Moff Gideon. Although, again, we already have all the pre-release stuff, and Giancarlo Esposito is not credited until episode 7. He's not credited in episode 6, so you think if they leave it on a cliffhanger, they're going to reveal next chapter who that is. And
well, remember, we also said, didn't we say, well, no, Gina Carano is...
She's coming back.
She's credited in... But she's credited Taika Waititi wasn't credited, but you do see a shot in the trailer of him talking to her.
So Gina Carano is credited in 7 and 8. I don't think she's credited in 6. I don't remember for sure. IG-11, Taika Waititi. Wow. Is that going to be the new name? I couldn't even remember
Margie Wago.
If I wanted to. He's not credited in anything else, but we've seen him in the trailers, the pre-release trailers. There's another shot of IG-11 we've never seen with Gina Carano.
Yeah.
So something's got to happen, and it probably involves Bill Burr too. And pre-release, the one sentence, the one-liner for episode 7 says something, or 6 says something about Mando teaming up with another group of mercenaries. So, maybe getting back with old people, maybe something new. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see until, well, it's not that far away. It's Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
And then we'll have to wait till Wednesday for the next one.
It's going to be great. Merry Christmas, fuckers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's about it.
That is probably, that's it.
We're
for
at an hour.
Episode. Yep. All right.
We are at an hour. So look, this show is just amazing me time and time again. So if you're not on it, get on it. Well, if you're not on it, I don't know what the fuck you're listening to this for. But get on it and hit us up. Really, get on our Facebook. Let us know that you're actually listening to the podcast. We're going to try to cross... We're going to cross
streams.
We're going to cross streams. Welcome to Ghostbusters. We're gonna try to cross you guys back and forth between podcast and Facebook and the website, so we can kind of get a lot of interaction there. But hit us up at the website, whatifgeeks.com, whatifgeeks@gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all that happy shit. And until next week, happy birthday to my brother Mike again, and good night, Tony.
Good night, Bill.